evening. You're watching the News at 6 with me, Ishan Russell. The News at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories. And the big development that happened today was, of course, the RBI rate cut. Coupled that with the fact that the monsoon might be deficient this time around. That is what the Met Department is predicting. What does this mean for the macroeconomic picture of the country? We'll be discussing that with an expert a little later in the show. But first, the headlines we're tracking right now. RBI cuts interest rates for the third time this year by 25 basis points, but fails to boost markets as the Sensex tanks over 650 points. RBI revises projection for growth rate to 7.6% for the ongoing financial year as the Met Department predicts deficient monsoon, triggering concerns over an agrarian crisis. Fresh tussle brews in Delhi after the AAP government inducts 5 cops from Bihar into the ACB, and LG reaffirms its authority over the matter but gets slammed by the Delhi government. BSNL to offer free roaming from the 15th of June. Telecom Minister announces full mobile portability will be applicable from next month. And over 450 people are feared dead after a cruise ship sinks in the Yangtze River in China. Only a dozen could be rescued. Our top story this evening, the Reserve Bank of India slashed the repo rate by 25 basis points to 7.25% on Tuesday. Tempering inflation and subdued investment and credit growth prodded the RBI Governor Rajya to cut rates. The Tuesday's rate cut is the third reduction in interest rates this year. Following the rate cut, SBI cut its base rate by 0.15%.
EMIs on your loans could come down soon, with the RBI slicing repo rate by 25 basis points. With the latest cut, the repo rate has come down to 7.25% from 7.5% earlier. CRR or cash reserve ratio, the amount of funds that banks have to park with RBI, was left unchanged at 4%. The reverse repo rate has been adjusted to 6.25% from 6.5%. Governor Rajan justified the rate cut, saying that banks have started passing through some of the past rate cuts to consumers and that inflation has evolved along the projected path.
With low domestic capacity utilization, still mixed indicators of recovery, and subdued investment and credit growth, there is therefore a case for a cut in the policy rate today.
However, the markets reacted negatively and nosedived after the announcement. At the end of the day, BSE Sensex sank 661 points, ending at 27,188. The NSE Nifty also tanked 196.95 points to settle at 8,236.45.
Most important thing is that the inflation which RBI governor talked about. He said that we expect this base effect to be over by August, and in next 6 months after that, maybe the inflation will go up to more than 6%. So I think that shows that maybe we don't expect any rate cut in another 6 to 8 months.
RBI's rate cut, however, bodes well for the industry as it feels the move will boost growth by lowering borrowing costs. The loan borrowers also heaved a sigh of relief.
This will spur growth. This will add to the growth impetus, but growth cannot happen only on rate cuts. We will have to work hard, we'll have to create jobs, we'll have to invite investments.
Home loan will come down, and this will definitely affect my home budget.
The RBI expects inflation to rise to 6% by January 2016. The central bank also said the biggest uncertainty ahead was the outcome of the annual monsoon after the rains missed their normal start date.
The Reserve Bank of India feels that inflation is steady, but factors like projections of deficient monsoon, firming crude oil prices, geopolitical risks and volatility in external environment may play spoil sport. The central bank also pointed out that sagacious food management is absolutely imperative to mitigate inflationary effects. Reporting from Delhi, I'm Kriti Mishra for Rajya Sabha Television.
And the June to September monsoon, the lifeblood of India's economy, will be deficient this year. The Met Department has downgraded its forecast from 93% to 88%. The revision by the IMD will toughen the Modi government's challenges economy-wise, as it already battles the agrarian crisis triggered by unseasonal rains in March and April. The RBI has also marked the projection for output growth for 2015-16 from 7.8% in April to 7.6%.
It's the 2nd of June and Keralites are still awaiting the first monsoon shower. Monsoon that first hits the country's southern tip, Kerala, every year on the 1st of June is now unlikely to arrive before the 5th. To make matters worse, monsoon will also be deficient at just 88%. Rainfall of less than 90% is considered to be a drought year.
I feel so sorry to inform that our prediction for the monsoon today, what we are going to announce is slightly inferior to what we predicted.
The latest prediction has an error margin of 4 percentage points either way. A weak monsoon will lead to a rise in prices of essential commodities. The news is also dreadful for farmers who are already reeling under a weather-induced crisis from earlier this year.
There are developments which are taking place and there are parameters, there are conditions of the global conditions in the temperature over the Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean. All these are the developments have taken place over the last 1.5 months, right. And they are not developments which have taken place are not very much conducive for monsoon rainfall, and therefore we have slightly decreased our forecast.
Rainfall is vital for the broader economy as well. A patchy monsoon affects industrial expansion as almost half of all consumer goods are bought by the rural population. It also adversely affects power production, drinking water and irrigation. If the Met Department's simulation is correct, dry conditions will be more acute in the grain bowl, that's the northwest and central part of India, affecting food production. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And we're joined by Yatish Rajawat, former group editor at the Dainik Bhaskar Group, to help us understand, Yatish, the macroeconomic picture. Today is a day when the Sensex, the RBI cut rates, but the Sensex still tanked, and the IMD is now predicted a deficient monsoon. So from the larger macroeconomic picture of the country, how does it look?
It looks, as if a perfect crisis is brewing somewhere. If you see the last 6 months or so, a large bulk of a population, which is the farmers, have been suffering losses and they have already seen a drop in their income. This has both an impact on the industry and on the macroeconomic growth. RBI's piecemeal action in terms of reducing the repo rate does not really help. I was hearing earlier in the program that EMIs will come down. They will not. EMIs will be the last thing that will come down. But the bigger concern here is that, which the RBI governor also pointed out, he used the term subdued investment and subdued growth. That's the biggest concern for the economy at this point in time. With this subdued investment and growth, you have an agrarian crisis. Therefore, farmers' incomes are going down. You might have larger NPAs on the agricultural loan side. The government will push the public sector banks to, give interest subvention or even to write off agricultural loans. Banks, on the other hand, are already starved for capital. Credit growth has not taken place because of the fact that they have such large, huge NPAs. So all in all, we are almost, there are all the components that you can think of are emerging which could create a crisis.
All right.
The banking sector in a problem area, the major economy in a problem area, and the fact that, the RBI are not doing much.
All right, but Yatish, the point being that, last week we did a report when the government had said that we'd surpassed China's growth rate. So in terms of these competitive growth rates and the actual investment that the country is being able to harness, what is the reality? Because given these figures, given, as you pointed out, all these little things that could add up to a large crisis for the economy. So in terms of the government's approach, how would you call it?
So first is the comparison part. This comparison is completely meaningless because these GDP numbers that have been thrown out, they are suspected the most, to say the least, about them, because they've been revised and both the base year and the way they have been calculated are not reflective of the economy at large. The second part is that what is the government thinking and what are they planning? Now, if you look at the finance ministry is trying to push the RBI to cut rate. Well, while they should be driving capital investment at this point in time, if you see the last quarter, Jan-March, public spending was at its lowest, which is expected because the government was trying to meet the fiscal deficit target. But why are we holding back public spending now when it is needed? That's one part of it. The other bigger part of it is, which invites investment, is these large projects which have been stuck and which have been stalled and which have caused overruns. These are both becoming NPs at the bank level, and the government is not doing much about it. You know, one good thing about the last government was that they had formed a committee under the Ministry of Finance, and that started this movement of getting these big projects rolling. Now, some of them, which was clear by the last government, are coming on stream now. But I don't see the same kind of sincerity or same kind of acuteness of understanding this problem by this government.
Fair enough. We'll leave it over there. Yatish, thank you very much for coming in and shedding light on this. NPA is, of course, a big worry as far as banks itself are concerned. And the macroeconomic picture, well, it looks a little bit shaky. And Yatish, as he was suggesting, the government should do a little bit more. What can it do? We'll, of course, keep a tab on that. But Yatish Rajawa, thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand this a little better. Now, moving on to some political news from Delhi, the Aam Aadmi Party government's decision to induct 5 police officers from Bihar in the anti-corruption branch has kicked off a fresh row. Reacting strongly to the move, Delhi's Lieutenant Governor Najib Jung has said any such move will need his prior sanction. Now, his objection to criticism from the Aam Aadmi Party, which accused him of creating hurdles in the ACB's functioning.
The AAP government's move to induct 5 cops from Bihar in the Anti-Corruption Bureau has fueled more fire into the ongoing power tussle in Delhi. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal had reportedly requested the Bihar government to get 6 policemen recently, out of which only 5 have joined so far. However, Lieutenant Governor Najib Jung's office virtually rejected the move. He issued a press release on Tuesday reaffirming that the ACB functions under his authority. He also said that the matter will be examined as and when he receives a formal proposal from the Vigilance Department of the Delhi government.
बिल्कुल established है writing में कि यहाँ पे ऑल इंडिया सर्विसेज IAS IPS और दानिप्स जो है एक दिल्ली अंडमान एंड निकोबार आइलैंड सर्विस, ये जिसमें डिप्टी सुपरिंटेंडेंट्स ऑफ पुलिस आते हैं, ये सिर्फ LG साहब जो होम मिनिस्ट्री के डेलीगेट ही है वो उसको कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं.
ACB comes directly under the purview of the LG, and therefore this is open confrontation and is not desirable. The matter today is before the High Court and Supreme Court. Wait for a month, let them clarify. Nothing is going to happen within 1 month. And why unnecessarily come in the limelight every day?
However, the Delhi government reacted sharply to the snub by LG. Justifying the move, it accused Najib Jung of trying to create hurdle for the ACB's functioning. But opposition parties slammed AAP government's decision amid a bitter tussle that has been going on for the past few weeks.
सरकार के पास पूरी पावर है और ACB के पास पूरी पावर है कि वो देश में कहीं से भी पुलिस कर्मियों को ले सके, और पहले भी होता रहा है. लेकिन अब सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने मजाक बना दिया हर चीज को. कभी वो LG साहब से कहलवाती हैं कि ऑफिसर उनके अंडर में आएंगे, कभी सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट LG साहब से कहलवाती है कि ACB उनके अंडर में आएगी, पुलिस में इंस्पेक्टर की पोस्टिंग भी वही करेंगे ACB में. तो ये तो मजाक बना रखा है इन लोगों ने.
The Lieutenant Governor is the administrator of Delhi. There are no police functions with the Delhi government. In that sense, if Mr. Kejriwal goes beyond what he is entitled to do, it is the bounden duty of the Lieutenant Governor to protect that constitutional position and point out the inadequacies in it.
केजरीवाल साहब कोई भी कानून नहीं मानना चाहते, और जो तरीका उन्होंने अपनाया है जब से वो चीफ मिनिस्टर बने, पहली बार बने, दोबारा बने, तो सारे काम वो कर रहे हैं जो कानून के दायरे में नहीं आते, या मुझे लगता है ये भटका रहे हैं सबको.
Amid the fresh controversy, there are reports that another 34 police officials from UP, West Bengal and Uttarakhand are expected to join the ACB in the next fortnight. The AAP government and the Lieutenant Governor have been involved in a public spat over his powers vis-a-vis an elected government. The centre had on 21st of May issued a notification siding with the Lieutenant Governor. The matter is now being sorted out in court. With inputs from Anu Devan, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, time for us to take a very quick break right now. Coming up on the other side, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi addresses a rally in Mao ahead of B.R. Ambedkar's birth anniversary, advocates rights for Dalits and an end to casteism. More on that on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Now, kickstarting the Congress's plan to celebrate the 125th birth anniversary of B.R. Ambedkar, Party Vice President Rahul Gandhi visited Mao today, the birthplace of the Dalit icon. Addressing a rally, he spoke for the rights of the community. His visit comes a day after his mother, Congress President Sonia Gandhi, wrote to Prime Minister Narendra Modi flagging atrocities against the Dalit community and demanding a bill to prevent such crimes.
Congress has planned to celebrate the 125th birth anniversary of B.R. Ambedkar in a big way. It is seen as the party's efforts to reclaim lost ground among Dalits ahead of crucial polls in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. As part of the plan, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi initiated the celebrations with his visit to Mao, the birthplace of Dalit icon. He addressed a public meeting on Tuesday and interacted with Dalit leaders and activists.
Baba Saheb Ambedkar दलित और कमजोर लोगों की जिंदगी में रोशनी लाई। उन्होंने अपनी सोच से हजारों साल पुराने जातिवाद की दीवार पर एक जबरदस्त चोट मारी।
Rahul Gandhi's visit to Mao comes a day after Congress chief Sonia Gandhi on Monday wrote to Prime Minister Modi expressing concern at the rise in crimes against Dalits. She demanded that the centre bring Dalit Atrocities Act in the Monsoon session of Parliament. However, BJP blamed Congress for being opportunistic in championing the cause of the marginalized community.
मऊ में जो स्मारक बना है वो बीजेपी की सरकार ने बनवाया था। 91 में शुरू हुआ था और जब तक कांग्रेस की सरकार रही वो नहीं बना। राहुल गांधी जी कृपा करके ये बताएं कि अंबेडकर का अगर आप इतना सम्मान करते हैं तो अंबेडकर को आपकी सरकार में भारत रत्न क्यों नहीं मिला?
The BJP too has grand plans to celebrate the Dalit icon's birth anniversary. It has already announced a flurry of ambitious initiatives, including the setting up of an Ambedkar International Centre at a cost of 197 crore rupees. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The Union Telecom Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad has announced that state-owned operator BSNL will provide nationwide free roaming service starting the 15th of June. He also said that the government will ensure that Wi-Fi spots powered by BSNL are operational in major tourist spots in the next 2 years. Full mobile portability will also be given from July.
After private telecom operators, now state-owned BSNL will offer free roaming services to its customers from 15th of June. Telecom Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad made the announcements while highlighting his ministry's performance in the last 1 year. Last month, BSNL had slashed roaming tariff by up to 40% for its prepaid and postpaid mobile connection following a telecom tariff order issued by the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India.
BSNL ने फैसला किया है, उन्होंने कल बताया था कि वो फ्री रोमिंग आज से शुरू करने जा रहे हैं, कल से 15 जून से फ्री रोमिंग करने जा रहे हैं अपने सारे नंबर्स को। तो एक बड़ी घोषणा मैं करना चाहता हूं 15 जून से बीएसएनएल ने उन्होंने कल फैसला किया अपने बोर्ड में, उन्होंने मुझे बताया कि 15 जून से वो बीएसएनएल का पूरा देश भर में फ्री रोमिंग करने जा रहे हैं।
He also said that full mobile portability will be applicable from July. It will allow subscribers to change operators without changing their phone numbers.
जून के अंत में हम इस पॉलिसी को कैबिनेट के पास लेके जा रहे हैं। इस पर ट्राई से दोबारा रिपोर्ट आ गई है, टेलीकॉम कमीशन में चर्चा होकर के बाय जून एंड वी विल टेक इट टू द कैबिनेट। तो एक इंपॉर्टेंट पॉलिसी इनिशिएटिव मुझे लगा कि मैं आप लोग को बता दूं।
The government also assured that Wi-Fi spots powered by BSNL will be operational in major tourist spots in the next 2 years. The government plans to set up 2,500 Wi-Fi spots this year alone. The minister also announced that BSNL has registered a 2.1% increase in revenue in the last financial year. This is Shyam Sundar's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, time now to take a look at all the other national news and updates in Nationwide. 3 days after an Uber cab driver was accused of molesting a 21-year-old student in Gurgaon, he was arrested. The latest accusation surfaced on social media on Sunday when the woman's brother, Ankush Pathania, posted a picture of Uber's response to the complaint, urging the company to take swift action. Protest by student groups supporting Ambedkar Study Circle APSC. The students group banned by IIT Madras last week turned violent on Tuesday. After protesters clashed with the police, several of them were taken into custody. The AIMS doctor who conducted the autopsy on Sunanda Pushkar's body has alleged that he and other doctors in the forensic department were pressurized to pass off the death as natural. However, a letter from the Health Ministry denies these allegations. In the final autopsy report submitted to the Delhi police in September last year, the team had said that Sunanda died of poisoning. Gujarat cadre senior IAS officer Rita A. Teotia has been appointed as the new Commerce Secretary and Rajiv Nayan Chaubey as the Civil Aviation Secretary as part of a top-level bureaucratic reshuffle in the Union government. A total of 17 secretary-level new appointments have been cleared by the Appointments Committee of Cabinet headed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now to some international news and news of a massive tragedy on the Yangtze River in China. A cruise ship carrying more than 450 passengers and crew overturned last night, apparently due to a cyclone. Hundreds remain missing, even as rescue operations continue. Only about a dozen people have actually been rescued. 5 bodies have also been pulled out so far.
Disaster in the murky waters of Yangtze River in China's Hubei province. The privately owned cruise ship Eastern Star capsized in stormy weather late Monday as it ferried 458 passengers and crew from Nanjing to southwestern Chongqing city. Rescue teams scramble on the upturned hull of the sunken cruise ship searching for survivors. Strong winds and heavy rains are hampering the rescue efforts. On land, distraught relatives scuffled with the officials, seeking a word on the latest, hoping against fading hope.
5点多就打了一个电话，他说蛮好的，我妈妈说蛮好的，我妈妈说蛮好的，叫我家里面当心就可以了，叫我自己当心。没想到我只这么慌慌，我知道帮他们多打一会儿了呀，我爸爸电话都没有接。
伊拉那手搞的嘛，阿拉讲特别蛮好，情况也不至于11个钟情况，意想不到，你讲对吧？真的意想不到哎，情况。
Chinese Premier Li Keqiang visited the site of the accident. He has promised all help. President Xi Jinping himself ordered a full-fledged rescue operation to be followed by a detailed probe on the causes of the accident. The ship's captain and the chief engineer, both of whom survived, have been detained for questioning. The duo said that the ship sank quickly after it was caught in what they described as a tornado. Reports suggest that the ship was not overloaded and had enough life vests on board for passengers. Among those on board were 406 tourists along with 47 crew members and 5 tourist guides. The tour was organized by Shanghai Tour Group. Officials estimate that the death toll could be bigger than the South Korea ferry disaster which killed 304 people in April last year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
As the Asian migrant crisis continues, US President Barack Obama has appealed to Myanmar to end the discrimination against the Rohingya Muslim community. This just a day after 18 countries met in Bangkok to discuss the escalating humanitarian crisis in Southeast Asia. Meanwhile, the Myanmar Navy is assisting in a rescue operation involving around over 700 stranded migrants.
More criticism coming in for Myanmar for the Southeast Asian migrant crisis. This time from US President Barack Obama, who called upon the country to end the discrimination against the ethnic Rohingya Muslim community. Obama also said that the US will try to settle migrants stranded at the sea.
Rohingya have been discriminated against significantly, and that's part of the reason they're fleeing. I think if I were Rohingya, I would want to stay where I was born, but I'd want to make sure that my government was protecting me and that people were treating me fairly as part of the democratic transition to take very seriously this issue of how the Rohingya are treated.
Meanwhile, Myanmar's navy is escorting a boat crammed with 727 stranded migrants to a safe location. Officials say they will verify the migrants' identities before taking any further action. The boat was found drifting in the Andaman Sea on Friday in an overloaded fishing boat.
The United States is the largest donor globally to the International Organization for Migration and UN High Commissioner for Refugees. And we have provided nearly $109 million in humanitarian assistance for vulnerable Burmese, including the Rohingya, in Burma and the region over the past 2 years.
The mass exodus of Rohingyas is a sensitive issue for Myanmar, which is under international pressure to grant citizenship to this community. A UN estimate suggests that nearly 2,000 people could still be at sea after being abandoned by the smuggling gangs. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
More international news from around the world in Global Buzz now. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has pledged a 26% cut in the country's greenhouse gas emissions. His call comes ahead of a global summit on climate change later this year in Paris. Abe also promised to take a leading role in the international drive to reduce pollutants which contribute to global warming. Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi once again slammed the advance of the Islamic State militants in Iraq as a global failure. His comments come as ministers from 20 countries meet in Paris to discuss ways and means to step up the fight against the IS. However, Russia, Iran and Syria did not participate in the talks. Abadi also went on to say that sanctions on Russia and Iran had made it difficult for Iraq to buy more weapons. The Iraqi officials today said that nearly 500 children who have been reportedly kidnapped by the Islamic State militants in Iraq could be used as suicide bombers and child soldiers. They've been taken away to a territory held by the IS, possibly for training at the camps. Young boys have been abducted from various Iraqi towns over a week. Some sports now, and former Indian captain and all-rounder Ravi Shastri has been appointed the interim coach of Team India for the Bangladesh tour starting the 10th of June. This is a stopgap arrangement for Team India as the BCCI is yet to finalize a replacement for Duncan Fletcher, whose tenure ended earlier this year. Shastri served as team director during the tour of Australia and the subsequent World Cup this year. This is Shastri's second stint as in Team India boss. He will be joined by Sanjay Bangar and Bharat Arun, who will continue to serve as the batting and bowling coaches respectively. R. Sridhar was also retained as fielding coach. A decision on the coach will be taken in consultation with the newly formed advisory committee of the BCCI. This committee comprises former greats Sachin Tendulkar, Saurav Ganguly and VVS Lakshman.
BCCI has appointed Ravi Shastri as the interim coach for the Bangladesh tour. B. Arun will be the bowling coach, Sanjay Bangar will be the batting coach, R. Sridhar will be the fielding coach, and Mr. Biswarup Dev will be the administrative manager. Mr. Rishikesh Upadhyay will be the logistic manager with the team.
And for all the other sporting action, here's Sports Beat. Former Indian Olympic Association Secretary General Lalit Banot was today elected as the Vice President of the Asian Athletics Association. He was elected in a poll held in China. Banot's name was recommended by the Athletics Federation of India. Banot served a jail term for his role in the Commonwealth Games scam. FIFA's Ethics Committee has provisionally suspended CONCACAF General Secretary Enrique Sanz from all football-related activities. Sanz was suspended on the basis of investigations carried out by the investigatory chamber of the Ethics Committee. Congolese Federation Vice President JGB Mayolas and the General Secretary PM Wantete had also been suspended for further investigation. In the French Open women's singles, Switzerland's Timea Basinski has defeated fourth seed Czech Petra Kvitkova to reach the last 8. She stunned Kvitkova with a straight set win. This will be Basinski's first quarter-final of the tournament. Well, that's all from us. Goodbye.